Images and Words, Presidential Rhetoric. What is the rhetorical president? This fundamental question asks who he is and what are the tools of his trade. In 1881, President James Abram Garfield's inaugural address asserts democratic ideals of social and economic egalitarianism, as well as a preoccupation with the language of empowerment and confidence to inspire and elevate the freed slave. In his inaugural speech, Garfield professed, "The elevation of the Negro race from slavery to the full rights of citizenship is the most important political change we have known since the adoption of the Constitution of 1787. No thoughtful man can fail to appreciate its beneficent effect upon our institutions and people. It has freed us from the perpetual danger of war and disillusion. It has added immensely to the moral and industrial forces of our people. It has liberated the master, as well as the slave, from a relation which wronged and enfeebled both. It has surrendered to their own guardianship the manhood of more than 5 million people, and has opened to each one of them a career of freedom and usefulness. It has given new inspiration to the power of self-help in both races by making labor more honorable to one and more necessary to the other. The influence of this force will grow greater and bear richer fruit with the coming years." Perhaps no American president expressed such a personal commitment to equal rights for African Americans than Garfield. Garfield was assassinated in September 1881 after serving less than 6 months in office. If Garfield had served a full term, would he have succeeded in advancing democratic ideals for inclusiveness and egalitarianism for freed slaves? To become reality, Garfield's aspirations required support from the courts, Congress, and the forces of public opinion that was strongly opposed to civil rights for freed slaves. Garfield's noble proclamation went tragically ignored and inspires interest only among historians today. Several best-selling books have been written about President Garfield: Candace Millard's Destiny of the Republic and Kenneth Ackerman's Dark Horse, The Surprise Election and Political Murder of President James A. Garfield. However, no film has been made about him. Presidents who have predominantly interested Hollywood are Thomas Jefferson, Andrew Jackson, Abraham Lincoln, Theodore Roosevelt, Woodrow Wilson, Franklin D. Roosevelt, John F. Kennedy, and Richard Nixon. Undoubtedly, Abraham Lincoln remains the most popular U.S. president to grace the cinematic screen. The most recent production is the 2012 release of Steven Spielberg's Lincoln. But what about a film celebrating Garfield? He rose from humble beginnings to become a college president, served 9 terms in the U.S. Congress, served as a military general in the Union Army, and later he would become the 20th president of the United States. These are legendary characteristics that describe a man who possessed an uncommon valor and the consciousness of a humanitarian leader. In 1880, he delivered his Boys in Blue speech before a cheering crowd in New York. Promoting yet again democratic ideals, Garfield proclaimed, "We will remember our allies who fought with us. Soon after the great struggle began, we looked behind the army of white rebels and saw 4 million black people condemned to toil as slaves for our enemies, and we found that the hearts of these 4 million were God-inspired with the spirit of liberty, and that they were all our friends. We have seen white men betray the flag and fight to kill the Union, but in all that long, dreary war, we never saw a traitor in black skin. Our comrades, escaping from the starvation of prison, fleeing to our lines by the light of the North Star, never feared to enter the black man's cabin and ask for bread. In all that period of suffering and danger, no Union soldier was ever betrayed by a black man or woman. And now that we have made them free, so long as we live, we will stand by these black allies. We will stand by them until the sun of liberty, fixed in the firmament of our Constitution, shall shine with equal ray upon every man, black or white, throughout the Union." As evidenced by this speech, Garfield was a powerful orator who often delivered an impassioned rhetoric for civil rights that would not be made by another American president for nearly a century. Kenneth Burke defined rhetoric as being rooted in an essential function of language itself, a function that is wholly realistic and is continually born anew. The use of language as a symbolic means of inducing cooperation in beings that by nature respond to symbols. Garfield's idealism and political pragmatism would manifest in the passage of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution. Shockingly, Garfield's mark on the American memory languishes in a cloud of national historical vagueness. He was a rhetorical president who braved the indifference of the masses who were opposed to suffrage for African Americans and equal rights. As the 20th President of the United States, who served for less than 200 days, he deserves far more recognition than he has received.